And here we go. And by the way, Mark, I do not have a clapper. I apologize. John is the owner of all clappers, all things clapper. I think he's got stock in the company that makes the clapper. I don't know.
We're just going to have to do without it, Pete.
Right.
I think we'll be okay.
But a day like today, I got to tell you something. Trying to find something to laugh about because, boy, the markets absolutely are taking on the chin again after, we had the Monday, which was brutal. Then you come back Tuesday, you get that big old bounce, and then all of a sudden we come back to today, and there's a lot of different things going on. But tell us about, speaking of things that are going on, you've got a pretty busy schedule today, so we can't fool around. We got to hit this thing hard. So tell us about your day.
Yeah, well, so listen, we've been busy covering this financial crisis, really the only way to put it, since the SVB stuff happened on Friday with almost nonstop Twitter Spaces, podcasts, and things of that nature. So later on today, I'll be joining our good friend Liz Klayman as her countdown closer. I'll be on Fox Business on the 3:45 slot. Happy to be back there on set with her. And then at 5:30 with our Bulls, Bears, and Blockchain radio show, we'll be hosting a live Twitter Spaces, which we've invited you, Pete, to join us on. We're going to have a lot of fantastic experts, commentary, helping folks unpack what the heck is going on. We've been getting really, really big numbers. We've had over 50,000 listeners in some of the spaces we've done the past couple of days. So we invite the Market Rebellion Nation to join us. 3:45 Fox Business, 5:30 Twitter Spaces.
I got to tell you, tell Liz Klayman I said hello. She's a Cal Berkeley Bear. I love her to death. She's about as intelligent as anybody on television. She does an amazing job over there at Fox, and just a wonderful lady and always fun to be around. And she's always got that big old smile on her. Matter of fact, I'm smiling because I think our rating is going to be the best we've had in a couple of weeks because I see it's you, handsome guy, me, a handsome guy, and we got the other guy. Oh, wait a minute. And by the way, he really gave us a great heads up today. Hey, guys, I'm not going to be able to make it. He said that just a few hours ago. Listen, Mark, you're the man because you said, I'm ready. Let's rock and roll.
I never miss a chance to address our incredible audience, Pete, and I love doing the show with you. And, I have a shirt, so this is not my only shirt. I have several shirts that I can put on to do this. And since I was getting pretty for Liz later, I said, what the hell? Let's do it.
Yeah, you look sharp. You always look sharp. You may want to try to pass that on to the other guy who looks a lot like me from the neck up, but from the neck down, oftentimes seems to not go with shirts or wears tank tops and stuff. If you could have a conversation with him, that'd be great. Hey, we're going to jump to the macro minute. So I'll kick it off for you, Mark. When I'm looking at the macro minute and I'm looking at all the different things that are going on right now, there are no one-day events. And I think that's the one thing that people probably looked past from going back to the previous week and weekend, and then obviously on Monday. And people oftentimes, well, we're done with that. I guess that whole financial crisis thing, or whatever you want to call this thing, but the run on the banks, whatever. I mean, it's Silvergate. I mean, it started with Silvergate. Then you move over to some of the others, Signature as well. I mean, and we all focus on the one, right? But there's been three that have had the big runs. There's a lot of confusion out there. And I think people have to understand there are events that once they happen, it doesn't just end. It doesn't suddenly just become perfect again. That's the markets we're in with the volatility that we've got.
Yeah, no doubt. And the vol is here to stay, right? Which is an important thing to remind our viewers. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about how to play volatility, but the vol is definitely here to stay. And part of the problem, Pete, is it's such a multifaceted and difficult set of issues to unpack. What happened with Credit Suisse is different from what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, is different from what happened at Silvergate, is different from what happened at Signature. Mm-hmm. And so it's really confusing, and it's easy for folks to just say, bank crisis 2.0, let's freak out, let's all throw logs through cash machines and, and all this other kind of crazy stuff. But it's not that simple, and that's why we're here to help unpack it.
Yep, that's great. Appreciate that. All right, let's jump right into it. We've got those market ticks off to the side. We got a 90-second clock that we put up there, and Jared does an amazing job for us. I got to tell you something, Lennar. This one is absolutely incredible to watch because in a day where the markets are falling apart, Mark, in a day where you're down 400 or 500 points early on, then all of a sudden we've been down as much as 600. This is a name that's been very close to its 52-week highs.
Yep.
That's been impressive. They crushed their earnings. They crushed the revenue. They absolutely did everything within their power to do. They did it. Now, does that mean it's a perfect call? Absolutely not. Their margins did shrink down a little bit. They did see the new orders start to come back a little bit of a decrease there, all to be expected. But when you look at the quarter, you look at the performance of the stock, they're doing pretty well today, Mark. What do you think about Lennar?
Yeah, listen, they are doing pretty well today, Pete. And I think part of the reason why they reported the way that they did is that we do still have a chronic shortage of supply in the overall housing picture here in the United States. We have not scratched the surface yet in solving that problem. So, not entirely surprised to see that they came in pretty hot on their last quarter. I am concerned, though, about the impact of what? Oh, of course, rising interest rates. We saw a blip, an uptick in mortgage demand for February. I think that's the kind of thing that we see when investors, homeowners more specifically, think that there is a continued rate increase to expect and trying to sort of lock in rates that are maybe comparatively low. So happy to see these numbers. The stock, of course, not performing well because of the broader sell-off in equities. If you had it, take profit. I wouldn't add to the position today. They are very close to that 52-week high.
Yep, they certainly are. Next, we're going to jump to Smartsheet. Now, this one is one that actually stands out pretty good on another stock where on a day where everything looks like crap, this is a stock that actually started off the day at least up about 13% or so, Mark. Why is that? Well, they reported 7 cents versus losing a penny. So that's a good thing. You go back a year ago, they lost 12 cents. So it's a company that has finally gotten itself together, starting to make a little bit of money, something we talk about all the time when we bring up the earnings and the revenue. Revenue is great. Revenue growth is great. But are you making money? These guys finally are. By the way, their revenue crushed the numbers as well. They put up 212. They're looking for 206 million. So across the board, this company knocked it out of the park. So on a day where everything else is just getting absolutely crushed, here's a stock that's been able to manage to hold itself into the green. Looks pretty impressive. You look at their balance sheet, free cash flow. There's a lot of reasons to take a second look at this name right now, Mark.
Yeah, no doubt. And you're talking about all of the fundamentals that are coming really clearly into focus at any point in time when you have the kind of market dislocation that we've been having this week and certainly over the past couple of weeks. I like the space they're in. You know, they have that coveted SaaS revenue that we talk about a lot, that investors in the street generally ascribe very high multiples and very high valuation to. They're in the cloud space. Data, don't bet against data. We talk about that all the time. Very impressed, and could be part of that flight to tech that we're hearing some whispers about, and where money is moving in markets as people flee the bank names.
Speaking of the banks, you just led me right into it. What do we got up next? Well, we got First Republic Bank, and we also have got Western Alliance Bank. Now, the two different banks going in different directions, but First Republic Bank, I'll hit that one real quick, and I'll let you go to the next one if you want,
Sure.
because First Republic Bank, think about what this stock has done, Mark, over the last week as far as some of the stock performance. It's absolutely unbelievable when you look at this company where a week ago it was trading about 103. Well, on Monday, it got all the way down. It got down to 19 bucks, 103 to $19. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And then today it's traded anywhere between $30 and $37. Is there a little bit of volatility here? Absolutely. There's a lot going on within a lot of these various banks on the sides of the ones that are right up in front of everybody's face all day long. But when you look at some of these other names, and I would put this First Republic there as well, pretty interesting. But Ken Griffith, our buddy, what do you think about what he's doing with Western Alliance? And obviously people seem to like what they hear about and what he's doing.
Yeah, listen, anytime, and we talk all the time on Market Rebellion about following the smart money. You don't get smarter than Citadel, though, you know, of course, highly controversial as well. But when they back up the truck on a name like that, as well as FRC, First Republic, we got to pay attention, right? And so these are certainly indicators that these are names that might be recovering as we see a turn in these bank stocks. And I think we will see a turn in these bank stocks, barring some other major shoe to drop, like Credit Suisse going into receivership. And we'll talk about that on the unusual. Western Alliance trading right now $11.15, off about $3. But we're going to be keeping a very close eye on that one.
Yeah, and I think people did get awfully excited when they heard Ken Griffin was jumping in there with about a 5% stake. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something that uh, when you hear that, and I think people just do respect the man so much. I do as well. We sold a business to that guy. I know him
Yep.
inside and out. I know him really well. Great guy, about as smart as they come on Wall Street. Next, we're going to jump back over and stay in the financial world, because how do you not talk about Credit Suisse on a day like today, where that is the name of the day? That has been the influencer. We're looking for influencers all the time. You and John are influencers.
Oh,
And
well.
the Credit Suisse today has a pretty good influence on what's going on. A lot of it having to do with the Saudi National Bank, what they've been trying to do, but what
Mhm.
they're also restricted from doing, right, Mark? I mean, that's been a big part of the story here, because they can only have so much from a percentage
Right.
basis in terms of how much they have invested. Maybe they would want to do more, maybe not. We don't really know those answers because they can't really necessarily step there. Tell us a little bit about that, Mark, and what you think of Credit Suisse, because these European banks across the board are getting hammered.
Well, they are, and these European banks like Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank, unfortunately, have a rich history of getting into trouble with the regulators, Credit Suisse and DB in particular. But what's important, and I don't think this is being covered enough today, is what you referenced a moment ago, and that's the import of the Bank Holding Company Act, which requires any investor that holds more than 10% of a particular publicly traded, U.S. publicly traded bank to register as a bank holding company. And I won't bore our viewers with all that means, but it's not good, right? It's part of the reason why you don't see Ken Griffith going even further in Western Alliance or First Republic. So I am loath to just make a conclusion that this was a qualitative decision on the part of Saudis in not going further in providing more assistance through investment in Credit Suisse. But there are definitely, look, anytime you have a bank with that kind of regulatory history that comes out and says, yeah, we've had some material problems in our reporting procedures over the past 3 years, you got to go, you mind telling me more about that? So we're going to be keeping an eye on this one, obviously driving European stocks, European banks generally, Europe just closing down around 3% on the day before we went on air. I
Mhm.
expect that pressure to continue on Europe tomorrow's open.
Yep, absolutely agree with you on that. I'll tell you what. How about the unusual options that we've got out there today? Oddly enough, or maybe not so much, we're both talking about companies that are somewhere in the financial world to some degree. I'm going to start off with Futu Holdings. Now, what makes this one pretty interesting, Mark, is first of all, most people probably have never heard of them before. It's an online brokerage. They're out of Hong Kong. They've been trading in a range of 27 to 72, but today, that's their 52-week high and low. Today, they're trading right around 46. So this is what makes this pretty unusual and reminiscent of something that we'd seen back in the Bear Stearns days. And I'm not saying this is anything like it, but it's an interesting trade that we're seeing, because we've seen mostly put buying that's very close to where the strikes are very close to where the stocks are trading. They might be a little bit out of the money. Well, how about if I told you this company, Futu Holdings, trading right around 46, why are they buying 6,800 of the April 25 puts? Now, that's a pretty decent far out of the money put to go out there and say,
Yeah.
hey, look, I think this thing could really collapse. Now, it's not a hedge, because if it's a hedge, it's the worst hedge I've ever seen. But if it's a speculative play, it's very reminiscent of something we saw back in the days of Bear Stearns trading 68. Everything was fine. The world said they were fine. And somebody was out there buying the 30 strike puts, Mark, for about 30
Hmm.
cents. So this feels a little like that. Now, I'm not saying that that's the same trade, but it is interesting. By the way, the options, interestingly enough, trading about the same price that they were back in those Bear Stearns days, about 35 cents for these options on a 25 strike, with the stock trading at 46. Makes you scratch your head a little bit. I'll let you take the next one.
Yeah, and I listen. I don't have any whispers on this name, but certainly I would be very looking carefully to see what might be going on, because that is a big, big bear bet against
Mhm.
Futu Holdings. I've got, not shockingly, bearish put buying activity in Credit Suisse. Investors buying 33,300 of the April 150s. Man, that's a big bear bet. The stock around $2.14 last time I looked before we went on air. investors obviously betting that there is more bad news to come out of Credit Suisse. And as I said a moment ago, Pete, I don't disagree, because we still lack, in my opinion, sufficient detail on what those material problems are in their reporting procedures that they self-reported and brought that stock down in Europe along with it.
I'm going to keep it with financials for one more second, Jared. And here's why. I forgot I passed over those fantastic futures, but it's definitely something we should be hitting, because you look at those CME energy futures that started pricing in a recession yesterday and accelerating a bit today. So that's something that I think it's critical. It's my apologies that we didn't hit at the very top, but I wanted to make sure that we hit that real quick as far as these fantastic futures. And what do you think about that, Mark? It's interesting to see, and the CME does a magnificent job of getting in front of things and giving people the opportunity to maybe make this a tradable event.
Yeah, I mean, look, that they are obviously the one and only go-to index for this kind of thing, and being very closely watched as investors in the street broadly try to anticipate what's going to happen with JPOW at the next FOMC meeting. A lot of major analysts coming out and saying he's done. No rate hikes. We're going to pause. The Fed finally broke something, maybe broke a few things in my estimation, and we could drone on and rant about that for way more than we have time to. But I am concerned that what those numbers are telling us about weakness in the energy sector. Oil, my God, the Barclays pure beta crude oil 25.58 right now, off 7%. Oil trading down at lows we have not seen in a really, really long time. And what we're hearing about that is largely premised upon a growing consensus in the energy sector that the recession has set in. People are going to pare back spending, maybe travel less, maybe drive less. Really, really concerning when we're looking for green shoots and looking for continued strength in the American economy and the consumer.
Yeah, makes it tough. But the CME trying to, at least give you a way to try to navigate through this whole thing. All right, we're going to hit a little bit of sports, Mark. So we're going to start off with the Boston Bruins. And we've talked about them throughout this season. And the reason I wanted to highlight it is, even in the midst of everything that's going on right now with the NFL, and that is really stealing all of the headlines, because whether you're talking about Aaron Rodgers or anybody else, it's been an unbelievable offseason, like it always seems to be for the NFL. But this one feels even a little bit bigger, some massive trades, all the rest of it. Meanwhile, you're sitting there, you take a look over in the NHL, this team has got a monumental, unbelievable year that they are putting up. They are the fastest team to ever reach 50 wins in a season. Now, that's an amazing thing in and of itself. I mean, just how quick they've been able to do this. They've done it in an amazing way. When you look at the point differentials, this team, nobody's even close to a mark in terms of they've got a plus 103. What does that mean? Well, it means that they've scored 103 more goals than they've given up. That's a monstrous number in and of itself also. So when you look at that and you look at everything that's going on and the offensive side, how strong they are, they've got great goaltending. The offensive side scoring has been absolutely outrageous. So is this team the team that's going to do it the entire way through, do you think? And what do you think about the records that they've set so far this year?
Yeah, listen, they're certainly poised for dominance in the NHL. There's no doubt. And as a house that is somewhat bipolar as being both Rangers and Devils fans, I have a hard time admitting to that. But this is definitely the team to watch.
Yeah, they're fun. You had the Celtics have still been on a run, number 2 team. I mean, I've called Boston the city. That city this year is the sports town of the United States. Yep. No doubt about it. Well, our good friend Mike Tannenbaum, I'm going back to the NFL, by the way. We're talking a little bit of free agency. Mike Tannenbaum is absolutely, they're just delivering him everything. We love that guy to death. He's done a great job. He's been with us on multiple occasions on podcasts and so forth, and he just does an incredible job. Former GM of the Jets.
Yeah.
We'll save the Jets for just a second, but let me tell you this. How about the Bears and how they fleeced the Carolina Panthers? And oh, by the way, David Tepper owns them, but they absolutely stole what they got in that deal for that team. And we talked about it yesterday, Mark, to move up from the number 9 pick for Carolina, who now has the number 1 from Chicago. but they gave him all sorts of other things. And I mean, it's just going to make the Bears a really quality football team almost overnight, in my opinion. Then you've got the 49ers making a lot of moves. What did they do? Well, John Lynch just never stops, and he added more to the defense. He did an incredible job with that. Carolina's added 5 guys. Now, this is a strange one. I'm already been critical, but here's another one. They've added 5 free agents already, right? I mean, just bang, 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 bang. And average age somewhere between 28 and 35 years old. Now, this is professional football, guys. Other than guys like Tom Brady, you start hitting 31, 32, 33, believe it or not, you're over the hill. These guys are signing all these guys to big dollar contracts after they've already made this trade for the quarterback. There's a lot of confusing things going on there, Mark. The last thing I'll mention to you is this one. You're a guy who's lived up in Connecticut. I'm a guy who lived up there for 10 years. A good kid. I watched him all through high school. Zach Allen just signed a deal, $47.75 million deal, 3-year deal with the Denver Broncos after playing at New Canaan High School, going to Boston College, breaking all the records there for sacks, getting drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, and now here he is getting a little bit of money from a team that's gone out and grabbed a couple of offensive linemen. Now they've got this big defensive lineman and Zach. I'll tell you what, free agency is fun, Mark. What do you think about what's been going on? And it starts today. All the preliminary stuff builds into today. Now they can finally sign.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why, like you mentioned, our friend Mike Tannenbaum, who I've had the privilege of getting to know pretty well, who always shares such fantastic words of wisdom and leadership stories from working for Parcells for as long as he did. Hard to imagine that he could last that long with that kind of pressure. But, him and Adam Schefter at a time like this, when we're watching the business end of the NFL with all of this activity that these guys are just on nonstop, and they are definitely the 2 experts in the space to listen to. And it's just, it's a lot of fun to watch, try to analyze and understand the moves that are being made here, but lots more to see.
Yeah, it's just starting. Literally today it starts, and and these guys are flooding in. Oh, by the way, is Aaron Rodgers really going to be with the Jets? Sure seems like it. And he went out and recruited a bunch of receivers, and they're going after Lazard. They're going after Cobb. They've already got a few good ones and a good running back. I'll tell you what, Aaron Rodgers is he's really showing that he's got a lot of power, Mark, in the NFL right now. I mean, he basically said, here's what I want. They went out and got it. So sure looks like it's a done deal that he's going to end up as a New York Jet.
Well, I can tell you, everybody here in the New York, New Jersey area is watching that one very carefully, having their fingers and toes crossed, because what a powerhouse to bring over to that team.
And a good defense that they've already got as well. Mark, really appreciate you, man. You do a great job always, but it's also great to have you on because you know what? John and I have our own ideas and this, that, and the other. Sometimes we get influenced, but you're another voice that's seeing it maybe from a different angle, and it's always appreciated. Thank you for giving us the time on a day where you're going to be busy, man. You got Fox, you got this Spaces thing, all this stuff going on. You got a busy day in front of you, but I very much appreciate that. Thank you, Mark, and we'll see you next time. Folks, have a great day.